Hello, welcome to Podnas. This is a sports show with a Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. And today we are going to recap the LSU season because the regular season just ended with a win over Oklahoma. We've got a couple of more updates from around the state for college football week 14, moving into the conference championship and the offseason for some schools. And then we're going to hit the top plays of the week, which is always fun. Jared, how you doing? I'm sorry I screwed up the point.
It's all right, man.
I was so positive. I was like, it's this way. I know it.
Well, look,
Oh, there we go.
that's what they call hubris. That's pride before the fall situation. The more confident you are, the less likely you are that you're going to hit that. And I don't mean that in general, but just for you here, really specifically.
Yeah, I have a very Icarus tale of myself. So, which obviously is not the first time Icarus has been brought up on this podcast.
It's not the first time Icarus has come up in my life in the last 18 hours, maybe.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Well, it is our 50th episode. So I feel like this is just us in our Icarus moment getting so high before the fall.
The Greek folklore episode of PODnas, you know?
I love it. I love it. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about the Greek gods of football. That didn't work. Well, let's just move on. Let's talk about LSU and Oklahoma. All right. LSU rolls, I wouldn't say rolls, but they were in command of this game pretty much I would say most of it. Nussmeier comes out and deals. Chris Hilton was nasty. Hilton, whatever, man. It's Monday for me. I'm not on my best day game, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about
I thought you were just excited to say Chris Hilton because you knew I was going to go off here shortly. But
oh yeah, let's get that out of the way.
We talked about going into the weekend that there was a sense that football team wasn't going to come out the way it did against Vanderbilt and really show some fight and some leadership and tenacity and pride and all of those intangible type things. And then come out and lay an egg on senior night the next week, that you were going to see that carry over. And I think you saw that again on Saturday, a lot of toughness in a lot of spots. The game was back and forth a little bit early on there, and Oklahoma, as Oklahoma has done in any of its games where it's been competitive, it got a defensive touchdown. And so early on, you're kind of frustrated with LSU coaches blowing through some timeouts, Oklahoma getting on the board on defense, and just some of the things going on there. But then really Aaron Anderson's second quarter kickoff return, the first kickoff return for touchdown for an LSU player since 2020, was a huge spark, put them back in the lead. And then you get the long Chris Hilton touchdown, 40 yards right before half, and then a stop to start the second quarter, 45 yards to Chris Hilton again. And so he ends up 2 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the defense was rolling from there. Defense was strong all night, but particularly in the second half was just dominant against the Sooners and kind of in cruise control from there. But Nuss's toughness when he gets hit. And look, I have a pretty strong feeling that my 2 young nieces don't watch the show, sadly, but I got a text late Saturday night from my brother that said, hey, when you're in interviews, Ryan Kate, who is like 5 or 6 or however old she is, she really wants to know that Nuss is okay. She was a little bit sad and tearing up when he went out the game for a little bit there. And so if Ryan Kate is watching, Nuss is all right. He came back in the game and finished strong. And, you know, we heard from him after the game and whatnot. But moments like that, I think, stood out the most, to watch his perseverance. And then I don't know if we're ready to jump right into the Chris Hilton thing, but to see him get to the end zone a couple times after some of his struggles this season, just trying to get back healthy and find his rhythm, that was, I mean, probably my favorite takeaway of the night, was just seeing that for Chris.
Okay, so go off, King. What do you want to talk about?
The best, I think Chris catching 2 touchdowns was the perfect spot for me to get really excited for him and to be back and kind of showing what we know he's capable of. But to not catch that third, because not that he had a chance, but if he did any more in that game, I was dangerously close to getting reckless in Cam Newton's mentions over the nonsense takeaways that Cam had. And I used takeaways loosely a couple of weeks ago after that little exchange on the sideline down at Florida, where Kelly kind of got on Chris about being coachable because Chris sort of turned away at one point while they were talking. And I think Cam's point of guys being entitled and coddled and built up to believe they're better than they are and not being coachable holds true in a lot of cases. And it's fair that there are guys that are kind of gassed up by their support systems around them and do not come to work with the right frame of mind. That's not Chris Hilton. That's not his deal at all. That's a good kid, hardworking kid who has just been so beaten down by the injury issues and wanting to be out there and play at a high level and not being able to and having to sit when he knows that he could make a difference. And then listening to the fan base start to turn on him in ways and get really chirpy in some spots. He was just really down and he was pressing and trying to make plays. And when it continued to not go right, he was kind of retreating into himself a little bit in that moment where BK is getting on him. And he knew that he was jumping early and all those things. And so to see him finally start to take that next step in his timing and look like he's kind of into his rhythm after missing most of the season was awesome. And I hope Cam Newton saw it, and I hope Cam Newton maybe has some thoughts about that little bit of redemption story, because he was wildly off base 2 weeks ago with his takes about that exchange.
Well, it's very funny, I think, that Cam Newton says something about gassing up and believing that you're as good as you are. When the man, after his first or second, but obviously pro season, you're able to get to the pros. He was an amazing college quarterback.
Awesome football player.
Yeah,
and also a perfect testament to all of the former players or current players who take shots at people who didn't play at that level and say they shouldn't speak on this and they shouldn't. Some of the dumbest and curse charge. Some of the dumbest shit that comes out in media in just terms of just takes and nonsense comes from former players who come out and then say off-base things with no reference, not knowing who the hell they're talking about, and want to take shots at guys playing the game that you would think that they have more respect and understanding for than anyone, but they want to come out and take shots and be hot take artists on their platforms. And it's a little bit insane.
Listen, like I said, go off, King. All right. I absolutely, I mean, that is, I mean, it's a state of where we're at, I think, in just a social media post, whatever COVID world. It's just, it's weird. It's a weird thing, man. Listen,
there's an instance here happening locally that is increasingly, curse charm again, pissing me off more and more.
Wait,
every
is pissing
day.
A curse
I don't know, man.
That's not a curse jar word.
We got Catholic school families watching this channel. I don't know where the line is. I say as though I didn't go to a Catholic school as a kid. There's more and more people that are just out there to fire shots at anyone, any which way they can at all times to try and build their name off of the shots that they take. And it is obnoxious as all get out. And
yeah,
I'm going to
Twitter fingers turn to trigger fingers, you know?
I'm going to not even waste the time talking about the one that is increasingly annoying me with the dumb shit at it, the dumb shit that comes out on social media. But yeah, that is where we are, sadly. And that's the stuff.
Are you cursing this much because it's Christmas time and you want us to get something nice from the curse jar?
I'm just aggravated, man. People are so ridiculous.
Yeah. But let's get back to football.
Reel us back in.
Talking about ridiculously, maybe not ridiculous,
but
boldness. I mean, yes, we are a ridiculous show. Let's put us in our place a little bit. BK came out hot in that presser afterwards, saying we're taking receipts. A
little bit feisty.
We'll see you in the national championship game. You were there for that, so like let's talk about it a little bit, and let's talk about where the LSU program goes in regards to the bowl game, in regards to what they're going to do in the offseason with roster moves and transfer portal and any of that kind of stuff. So what did you see? What did you hear from that side of it?
Yeah, he came out pretty emphatic with his confidence and just, I think, trying to exude some of that and set that tone to put that sort of thing out there so that not just the fan base, but the players and the recruits and potential recruits all kind of see the confidence level in this team moving forward. And I think it's fair at the end of an 8-4 season that was more up and down than was anticipated going in, for some fans to have had a reaction to think that was a little bit over the top, or I'll believe it when I see it sort of energy to it. I think there is certainly plenty of opportunity for this team to compete at that level really quickly. And it's just going to be interesting to see how things play out really over this next couple months. If they keep the class of high school guys together this week, as it seems like the bulk of that class after the Bryce Underwood flip and the LeJesse Harold flip, that most of these guys that we talk to right now sound like they're still locked in for Wednesday. And so if they keep that group, and if they have some of the guys coming back that have some options right now and sound like they're leaning toward coming back, and then if they attack the transfer portal the way that he told us a week ago, they were going to be very aggressive in finding some guys and filling some spots, I don't think this roster is that far away from being competitive at a national championship level. And so I'm interested to see what this next couple months looks like to kind of take those necessary steps to really be there next year. But as much as LSU was inconsistent this year, we've talked about it time and time again. It's been a recurring theme. College football consistency is more elusive now than ever before. And so they're just a part of that. And we're watching the top teams in the country right now, for the most part, struggle to be consistent. And I don't think they're that far off in a lot of ways. And if they can hit those portal additions this winter and have the guys back that it sounds like they might have back, they might be in that playoff conversation next year.
Do we have any, or do you have any names or people that are maybe possibly could join the Tigers
in terms of transfer portal stuff?
Yeah,
not so much yet. We're trying to see how these next couple days go in terms of the high school group, and then the portal stuff really opens next week. But I think positionally is one thing to look at, where I do, particularly in the wake of Bryce Underwood's flip and news that Ricky Collins would be entering the portal from LSU, one of those backup quarterbacks that we've talked about on here. I think going to find a veteran quarterback is going to be part of this conversation. I think there's still the conversation happening right now of, could Garrett Nussmeier return or will he go pro? And my expectation right now on December 2nd is that he will probably be back next year. But even still, I think you want a veteran backup to kind of push that competition and, potentially bridge the gap the year after if necessary, or just be there if he gets knocked out the game. And so quarterback's a spot. I think they go get another big receiver to add into the mix with Aaron Anderson and CJ Daniels, who sounds like he'll be back. I think finding a couple guys in the trenches on each side will be really interesting, and potentially a safety to mix into that secondary. But I mean, you're talking about a handful or half a dozen spots where if you can hit on the right guys there, on top of some of the pieces coming back, and hope to see some continued development from some of the young guys that were really thrown into the fire a little bit more quickly this fall than would have typically been the case, I think there is an opportunity to take a big step forward next year.
And also, let's give the man his flowers. Whit Weeks is just a monster.
Oh my goodness,
just amazing. 13th in the country in total tackles and solo tackles. Just the stuff he's doing every week is just, and like we've talked off air, like you were saying, the man is just
guy.
the best interview. The best interview.
He's number 13 in the country in solo tackles and number 1 in your hearts sort of guy.
Yes.
With Weeks. And
absolutely.
I told you, I think him being back next year and continuing his progression as a playmaker, but also the vibe that he exudes for that type of energy to be a leader on that team next year, I think will also pay bigger picture dividends in the way that rubs off on everyone else around him. I think we saw strides this year in the defense that are really, really encouraging moving forward as they continue to restock that talent pool on that side of the ball. And then, I mean, if Garrett Nussmeier's back, how well did the transitions or the growth from year 1 to year 2 go for Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels? And I'm not saying that to say Nuss goes to win a Heisman next year, but you see the growth from year 1 to year 2 in the program, and for Nuss from year 1 to year 2 as a starter to get some of those reps in. And you saw flashes of him being phenomenal at times this year. He had some issues at times as well, and he knows some of those throws that he needs to learn from. But I think the growth potential of this team, even without the additions theoretically looming, will be really notable. And then when you add a couple of key pieces, it's really exciting. And we talked about a couple weeks ago, this is a team that had been so decimated by the end of Coach O's tenure that it has been more of a rebuild through these 3 years than fans, I think, remember or want to give credence to. And when BK took over, I told an older reporter on our way to one of those Florida State season openers that I thought within about 5 years that they would have LSU competing for a national championship again. And so that's still within that timeline. We just happened to watch this team beat Alabama in year 1 and win a Heisman in year 2. And so I think it kind of sped up expectations a bit, but I don't think they're in a bad spot right now. It's just some of those games you wish you had closed a little bit better this year, but I still think they're building and that it is fair for BK to say some of those things.
Hey, absolutely. So there's reason for optimism, people. That's what we're saying. All right. Be happy. It's Christmas time. Spread good faith and will towards men. All that stuff.
Look, they've got to go do it. Like, I don't want it to sound overly homer. They're not going into next season as the team to beat by any stretch. They've got to go out there and accomplish some things this offseason and prove themselves next fall. And I'm not guaranteeing anything, but as down as people have gotten at stretches of this year, it's not nearly as bad as it has been attempted to be painted by some folks.
Yes, absolutely. Just remember the end of the Coach O tenure. We all want to remember 2019, which was a great year, but let's also, we can pull up receipts from that ESPN or Athletic report about all the other goings on that were happening. And let's focus in on that because that is really where the program was. So like we said, they got to go out and do it, but there is reason for some optimism.
Look, man, I like Coach O. Certainly grateful for a national championship and some of the times along the way. I'm excited anytime I get a chance to go see him out and about. He goes and visits everywhere that his sons are coaching now, including Tulane. But there is an element for some folks because of that national championship to think back and feel it's like looking back in an old relationship. And man, that was the one that got away. Everything was awesome. And you forget some of the fights and arguments and craziness that happened as well. It just kind of gets blocked out by human nature. But yeah,
I wouldn't know what that's like, but I mean,
yeah, sure.
Oh, I make mistakes. All right, cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. I like I said when we said a couple of times, there's reason we can see the growth. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there's reason for optimism, and I do think this year, especially with the 3-game losing streak, that was tested. I'd say for the least fitting word for that, but. It's not as bad as I think some people were led to believe. So let's keep moving forward. And as long as there's not a huge, as long as it's not 2 step forwards, 5 steps back, but we can see that progress, then, I'm at least happy to be an LSU fan today and damn sure glad I don't have to wake up liking Tuscaloosa. So
about to go into a T-Bob Greek art versus whatever the hell that monologue was a couple years. It was beautifully done, to be honest with you, but whatever that was.
Absolutely. We won't get into that. All right, let's update from the rest of the college football week. Cajuns win. Louisiana Tech rolls. Ends their season very strongly. Anything else that you kind of want to touch on with that? And also, with the Louisiana coaching update in the college ranks. I know there's a lot of shakeup going on in the state right now. So let's touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, from the coaching standpoint, I think the big news is Sunday. Nichols announced that Tim Rebowe had retired.
Sunday. Go ahead.
So, guy that I have a ton of respect for him, a longtime assistant around the state, and then took over that Nickel State program in 2014, I believe it was 2014, 2015. And so he was the longest tenured head coach and really did a hell of a job. He and his staff of turning that program around and becoming, Southland Conference champions a few times along the way, and just everything that they did to revitalize the Colonel's program. And so his defensive coordinator, Tommy Arabaki, will take the reins there. But credit to Coach Rebo on a hell of a career. Kind of piggybacking off those two games you mentioned, Cajuns with a 37-23 win against ULM. Zylan Perry, the former Franklin High star, 19 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. Bill Davis, 17 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Casey Osai, 13 tackles and interception. Cody Jackson, 2 picks. He had his first career pick 2 games ago, and so now 3 picks in a 3-game span. And all of that combines for the Cajuns to get to host the Sun Belt Conference Championship against Marshall this weekend. Louisiana Tech with the 33-0 win against Kennesaw State, former Acadiana star Myrie Wiggins, 17 carries for 129, I think, and 3 touchdowns. And so the Bulldogs reaffirm head coach Sonny Cumbie. He'd been kind of under fire for parts of the season, some criticisms and whatnot, but they kind of talked it out. He's going to be back next year, and they expressed confidence in him. Southern wins the Bayou Classic 24-14, and so our guy Calvin Harris and company beat our attorney Joey Brooks's Tigers. Chandler Whitfield, former Zachary star, 5 catches, 146 and a touchdown. Herman Brister, former Southern Lab star, with an interception. And that kind of ran the gamut of the light college football weekend in terms of some news and some outcomes.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, what a recap. But the 50th episode is just jam-packed with stuff, folks. Okay. We can't stop. And we're going to keep on rolling, because what's next is what I've always said is my favorite part of the show. It's the top plays of the week. Let's get into it.
And I'm going to remind folks going in this time, if you want plays viewed as a potential play of the week candidate, by all means, send them in. We say it every single week to send them to one of the Louisiana Versalio or PODnas accounts, and we'll check that out and potentially include them if they are indeed a top play, because it's been really, let's just say, really fun for some folks to not send anything in, and then the moment the post gets made, complain that something wasn't considered, when it would have been far more useful to have maybe said that should be considered ahead of time.
Yo, man, you are hot today. I love it. We're living in Jared's anger corner. It makes me so happy. Oh,
all right. I
just said goodwill and faith towards men, but screw that. Damn. That's a curse chart. That's 4 today.
Heck darn it.
Shoot.
So let's jump right into some more positive vibes than anything I've been. I'm not even going to say that. I've been plenty positive in this dang show. I just have had a couple of Festivus grievances to air out along the way as well. But
shout out to Ryan Clark for your great use of dang, by the way.
I'm going to start texting the little poop emojis when I need to, like Ryan does, to cover myself on the cursing thing. But jumping into some of these top plays, I feel like if we've got a double pass play, we might as well start with it, because the folks have loved the double pass plays. And this one, kicking off our set of plays of the week this week, you have Baylor Graves over to Cohen LeBlanc, deep to
nice.
Mr. Go Get It, Amari Clayton. The Catholic High Bears needed that one to win 14-7 against Rummel. You see, it's late there in the fourth quarter on the Catholic High BR Athletics and VSN feed that got that great play. Again, it's Baylor Graves, the quarterback, out to Cohen LeBlanc, a receiver who's got some
game winner,
some service academy offers. He's also been recruited some by the Cajuns. We'll see if something comes up there. He throws the ball to Amari Clayton, the Nickel State commitment, heading down there to go play for Tommy and company down on the Bayou. And they get that 14-7 win late against the Raiders and advance on to the 8th straight semifinal for Catholic High, which is best in the state right now.
All right. Hey, way to go, Bears. What's next?
Next up, we go up to Shreveport, and a play by Destrehan on the long road game. Damian Richard II with an interception there late in the second quarter. Doesn't quite get all the way back, but he goes most of it.
Yeah.
He goes 96 yards before he
Oh
runs out of gas
my.
a little bit. And so he sets up a touchdown, but Damian and the highlight reel cut off there. But huge play. You see that airline high field. We've had a couple of great offensive plays of theirs featured throughout this season. And so those guys can come up with some highlight plays of their own, put up some points. The Vikings had been great all season at doing just that. Destrehan, with its own prolific offense, they scored 69 on the night in the quarterfinals to advance on to the semis, and had a couple of key defensive plays there to advance on to the semis.
All right.
Next up, I'm going to let first the dulcet sounds of Daniel Luquette right there and Robert Valdez take us through.
On the 4 again.
Quick pass number 4. Electric, coach. Quick pass number 4, and he is electric.
He scores.
He's electric.
Oh my gosh.
I think we might need a Daniel Luquette and Robert Valdez weekly broadcast if we can find a way to fit that in.
Yeah.
Two longtime and great coaches and men in the high school coaching game in Louisiana through the years. But that play, Jakias Villanueva, Old Man River there, the junior for a really young St. James program, a guy that has as much experience as anyone on that team and also showed the wheels there, his dynamic playmaking ability to go get the win for the St. James Wildcats down there in beautiful downtown Vacherie, push them on to the semifinals where they will host Union Parish in a rematch of last year's state championship game, a heartbreaker for St. James, and now they get a chance at some revenge at home later on this week. And all that said, the best storyline still is this one from Manny Williams, the senior running back for Central High. He missed the bulk of this season after a car accident the night before the season opener. He's back now down the stretch and gets a chance to get into the end zone. You see the emotions there from him, the fans, the coaches, the teammates, but Big Manny Williams finding the end zone in a quarterfinal to send the Central Wildcats back to their
I love it.
first semifinal since 2008. That's
amazing. I love that. We love to see it.
A clip that Chessa Boucher from BR Proud and Go Nation got on Friday night up there in Central. And so great to see Manny back on the field. Great to see him making plays for the Wildcats. And again, they go on to the semis for the first time since 2008.
So I know what you're thinking. If you've stuck around with us this long, how do I vote on this top play of the week? And it's super duper easy. All you have to do is go to the PODnas social media feed, PODnas_LA. You can vote on it there. We're going to announce the winner at the end of the week. Give us a follow if you're so inclined. We'd love to interact with you on there, and also on all the Louisiana versus all y'all platforms, on Twitter, LA versus all y'all, and then on the YouTube page as well. Like, share, comment on this video. We want to hear from you. Jarrett also has great stuff on the Louisiana versus all y'all page for Louisiana recruiting, all your stuff you need to know about Louisiana sports. You can really go to the Louisiana versus all y'all page and find out. And there's also merch. There's dope hoodies. So dope shirts. So go check it out. That is all we really got for you today. I don't have anything else. You have anything else for the people, Jarrett?
No, man, that's about it. Appreciate anyone who tunes in or supports the channel or, any of the platforms and, just enjoys watching, talking about, hearing about some of this Louisiana sports at every level the way that we do.
We're going to keep giving it to you every single week. We're coming to you on usually early in the week and a late show. And then next week, guys, I know we've said this, but into this week, actually, we're going to go into what we're going to do for our bowl pick'em and for the college football playoff bracket that we had. And also Jared's just absolute beat down of me in the weekly pick'em. I tried my best, but I guess he is Mr. Right, even though he's on your left. So, that is all we got for you. PODnas out.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a